Overall voice. Opening voice, quiet, tense, as if something is about to happen. Secret discovery voice. Shocked, excited, full of surprise. Dialogue voice, sharp, strong, tense, as Shen Lang and Dian Huang confront each other. Dealing voice, decisive, scheming, and full of confidence. Change in attitude voice, soft, confused, as Shen Lang realizes the price and the reason. Ending voice, decisive, strong, confident, and ruthless, as Shen Lang prepares to plot his revenge. The book explodes, a citywide detonation. For the cultural circles of Lan City, today was a monumental day, one that would be etched into the annals of literary history. Because the lower volume of Mandarin Duck Dream, the sensational novel by the noble and famed scholar Chuc Van Hoa, was officially released. Bookstores across the city were swept into a whirlwind unlike anything seen before. This was no exaggeration. This book's first volume had already shattered sales records and accumulated a massive reader base. They had been waiting for half a year with bated breath. Young ladies from across the city mobilized in full force, lining up outside bookstores to get their hands on a copy. While Mandarin Duck Dream was officially distributed by the prestigious Jade Pavilion, other bookstores also sold it, though they all sourced their copies from the pavilion. From the break of dawn, every bookstore in Lan City had lines stretching out the door. The line at Jade Pavilion alone exceeded 200 people. In the context of ancient China, such a sight was almost unimaginable, especially after the Song dynasty, when noble ladies rarely set foot outside their manors. But today, even the demure daughters of highborn families ventured out. Some girls from wealthy but not noble households who didn't have maids or servants had to come personally. Others, true fangirls of Chuc Van Hoa, showed up just to catch a glimpse of him. Meanwhile, street vendors seized the opportunity to hawk fans, sweets, and cold tea. The streets in front of bookstores became a festival, chaotic scene. Scholars and male readers who saw this spectacle from afar could only stew in jealousy. Why him? Aren't we all scholars? Why does he get all the girls? Even if I dated one new girl a day, I couldn't get through them all in a year. And then, open the doors. As sunlight kissed the storefronts, the bookstores flung open their doors. Hundreds surged inside, silver coins clutched tightly, scrambling for books as if their lives depended on them. Moments later, sold out. Every copy in stock was gone. The shopkeepers cursed themselves for not ordering more and urgently dispatched assistants to the Jade Pavilion for restocks, even knowing they'd be overcharged. But it didn't matter. This book wasn't just literature, it was walking silver. Those who didn't get a copy grumbled in frustration. Those who did couldn't wait to crack them open and started reading on the spot. Their eyes sparkled, their voices gushed with praise. Chuc Lang truly is a once-in-a-generation genius. That opening poem, such bittersweet sorrow and human pain, written so beautifully. No wonder he's called the #1 scholar of Lan City. Why didn't Chuc Lang show up today? I was hoping to see him in person. Chuc Lang isn't some shallow showman. He's lofty and refined. He doesn't care about sales or popularity. He only wants to write the best work possible. Yes, that's what makes him so noble and untouchable. Did Chuc Van Hoa show up? Of course he did, disguised as a middle-aged man among the crowd. He basked in the praise, euphoric inside, while simultaneously sneering in his heart. These vulgar girls, do you really think you're worthy of me? You exist only to add to my glory. Only someone like Chuc Van Hoa, with beauty and brains and noble birth, is fit to be mine. He thought smugly. Swan Hoa, are you watching? See how I shine? See how many women go crazy for me? And yet I care only for you. As for Thumb Lang's attempt to publish a book in Lan City, Chuc Van Hoa had already thrown that matter to the clouds. One word from him, and not a single bookstore in the neighboring provinces would dare to sell Pham Lang's work. Satisfied with the waves of admiration, he slipped away. What he didn't know was that a revolution had quietly begun. Around 8-9 a.m., 13 storytelling shops across Lan City suddenly unveiled new roadside stalls. Each was stacked with books, hundreds of copies, all arranged spine up, so no one could see the covers. These were copies of Golden Lotus, Boundless Erotica, the collaborative work of Pham Lang and Kim Mok Tong. While Chuc Van Hoa's books sat proudly inside posh bookstores, Pham Lang's were being sold street-side. How low class, people scoffed, just like a street performer setting up next to the opera house. Then they saw the price, 60 coins a copy, 2 more than Mandarin Duck Dream. Who the hell is Lang Lang Laughing Life? Never heard of him. Is his pen inlaid with jewels or something? And so the stalls were quiet. Ghost towns compared to the chaos of the bookstores. Crowds continued to flock toward Chuc Van Hoa's release. Many male scholars didn't even come to buy books. They came for the girls. Getting bumped and squished? Totally worth it. But just then, a man shouted, "Look outside!" Dozens, then hundreds of men turned their heads. Outside the bookstore stood an enormous, vividly colored poster. A nuclear explosion of color. On the poster, Chuc Van Son and little Ximen in a scandalous embrace. The woman's curves, her sultry expression, the sheer silk robe, it was a visual assault, far more real and seductive than any beauty painting the world had ever known. It looked like a living person had been flattened onto paper. No, this is better than real women. The waist, the posture, the sheer fabric. Is this even legal? The poster didn't just seduce, it detonated male brains on the spot. A female voice shouted from inside the bookstore, "Who's poking me with a stick?" Like a spark to gunpowder, that one sentence ignited a stampede. Hundreds of men swarmed the poster like moths to a flame. Within moments, the little bookstore stall was surrounded, 3 rows deep, inside and out. Scholars tried to maintain dignity, but the hooligans, they pressed their faces to the poster. "Why are you so close? Think you'll see through her clothes? Why are you sniffing the paper, bro? Do you think it's scented? Hey, stop sticking out your tongue! What are you trying to lick?" The book peddler shouted, "Golden Lotus, Boundless Erotica, a true literary masterpiece from a noble son. Based entirely on true stories. Take a look, no charge if you don't like it." People, scholars, merchants, even beggars began picking up copies. The cover was already scandalous. Inside, even more irresistible. They flipped the pages, skeptical, then stunned. The prose was sharp, witty, philosophical, each sentence layered with wisdom and cunning. They read 10 pages? This is outstanding. They read 30? This is brilliant. Halfway through? Slam. A masterpiece. Rare, timeless. This is a book to be read again and again. Like fine wine, like aged tea. Something to savor slowly. Scholars handed over coins without hesitation. Genius. Absolute genius. Even the less educated readers found the spicy scenes incredibly vivid. Each passage played out like a film in their minds. "I need to go home. Now." And the illiterate, they couldn't read, but they could look at the illustrations. "My wife can't do this. This is art." Page 2, even better. "I don't need lonely nights anymore." Page 3, "I'm off to lay swan brothel." Whether they were nobles, merchants, or commoners, everyone was hooked. Even illiterate rich men bought copies. "I can't read, but I can look. At night, when my wife complains, I'll whip out this book and I'm good to go." In short, Pham Lang's book captured them all. This scene played out across all 13 stalls in Lan City. A cultural detonation never seen before. Thumb Lang's book didn't just sell, it exploded, and it completely crushed Chuc Van Hoa's new release. As for how many copies were sold, who knows? But one thing was clear: Golden Lotus Boundless Erotica had become a citywide explosion. Crushing the competition, Chuc Van Hoa on the verge of exploding. At first, Dong Trek had a feeling that Thumb Lang's book would gain some traction, but he never imagined it would ignite like this and so quickly. The vividly colorful promotional posters were like a direct strike to the senses, instantly grabbing attention. The cover itself acted as the second punch, luring people into picking it up and flipping through the pages. Yet the real power lay inside, a story so captivating, words so compelling that people were more than willing to open their wallets for it. "Shopkeeper, quick, give me another copy. No, give me 100, no, 200. Wait, make that 300. Messengers who had been sent out to sell the book returned breathless with their reports. Originally, Dong Trek had set up his stall right across from Chuc Van Hoa's bookstore, hoping to ride on the coattails of his popularity. But to his astonishment, he didn't need the heat. Thumb Lang's book was already an inferno. If Chuc Van Hoa's new release was like tossing a rock into a lake, then The Legend of Love in Golden Plum Grove by Thumb Lang was like detonating a bomb at the lake's center. The waves it created were massive. Sales accelerated at breakneck speed, and soon it went beyond fast. It went viral. In just one day, 3,000 copies were sold. That was 10 times more than Dong Trek's most optimistic estimate. Before this, the highest-selling book in Lan City hadn't even broken 500 copies. Even Mandarin Duck Dream, Chuc Van Hoa's previous bestseller, only moved 600 at most. Lan City had a population of just 30 to 40,000. Those who were literate numbered no more than 8,000. That meant roughly 1 in every 3 literate people bought Thumb Lang's book. And even more ridiculous, illiterate people were buying it too. By nightfall, courtesans from the Spring Delight Quarter and Dihong brothel were lining up to get their hands on a copy. They weren't just buying, they were fighting over it. It was madness. And this was just the beginning. Once word spread to the surrounding regions, 4 prefectures and over 20 towns, the book's influence would grow exponentially. As for how many total copies it could sell, only the heavens knew. At Chuc Van Hoa's private estate, the man himself was drinking fine wine, savoring his latest literary success. Today marked the release of his newest book, and sales were strong. His reputation had climbed another step. The feeling of being the undisputed ruler of the literary world was simply intoxicating. Around him sat 4 scholars, each vying to flatter him louder than the last. Did you see the chaos in the city today? Paper's more precious than gold. Chu's book will sell more copies than anyone ever has. Did you see those noble young ladies? They're practically swooning over him. People forget to eat meat for 3 months just to read his writing. I bet no one will break Chu's sales record in the next 50 years. Even Lady Chuc Van Hoa must be secretly in love with him now. Find me a single scholar within 300 miles who can rival Chu. Just one? I'll chop off my finger if you do. Chuc Van Hoa pretended to be humble, sipping his wine with a small smile, but his heart bloomed with joy. Flattery like this, he could listen to it for 10 years straight. Of course, one must maintain the decorum of a true scholar, so after dozens of praise-filled lines, he casually waved his hand. All right, let's not go overboard." "Knock, knock. Who is it?" he called out. "It's me, Tring Xiang'u," said a voice from outside. The speaker was the owner of the Yud Pavilion bookstore, and his tone carried urgency. Chuc Van Hoa frowned. How rude, he thought. One of the scholars scolded. "Old Tring, how dare you speak so casually to Chu, young master? What if we stop distributing his books through your shop?" "No need to be so harsh," Chuc Van Hoa said mildly. "Open the door." A servant let Tring Xiang'u in. His expression was troubled, and his words hesitant. "What's the matter?" Chuc Van Hoa asked. "If it's about sales limits, we already agreed. The rarer something is, the more people crave it. We shouldn't make books too easy to buy." Of course, Tring Xiang'u replied. "Today we sold 260 copies in less than an hour. That's faster than any previous launch." "Incredible," one scholar exclaimed. If there weren't restrictions, who knows how many would have sold? Chuc Van Hoa nodded. Is that all? Why come in person for such a predictable result? But Chuc Van Hoa's expression darkened. The thing is, another book sold over 3,000 copies today. Silence. Chuc Van Hoa stood up so fast he knocked over his wine. Impossible! There simply aren't enough literate people in Lan City. Other than classic Confucian texts, no storybook had ever sold more than 800 copies. Must be someone faking sales, one scholar suggested. A rich young master buying his own books to create buzz. No, Trac Pham shook his head. These were real buyers, mobs of people. Even illiterate people were clamoring for copies. What book? Chuc Van Hoa barked. Trac Pham placed the book on the table, and the scholars all gasped the moment they saw the cover. The Legend of Love in Golden Plum Grove. My heavens, that cover, just looking at it makes me want to buy it. Chuc Van Hoa's face turned pale. That useless scoundrel Thumb Long wrote this? Yes, said Trac Pham. Chuc Van Hoa snatched the book. He'd skimmed it once, had even deliberately rated it 50% lower in his mind to lessen the impact. But now, with thousands of copies flying off shelves, he had to see it again. He opened the first page, then the second, then page 10, then page 30. 1 full hour passed. He finished the entire first volume. Then he closed his eyes, chest rising and falling violently. When he opened them again, he hurled the book on the floor. Trash, vulgar, and obscene. This book relies on crude language and suggestive illustrations to titillate readers. It has no literary merit whatsoever. He picked it up, flipped to a random page, and read aloud a steamy line filled with lurid detail. This is disgraceful. Exploiting base human desires with such shameless writing? Deplorable. And the author himself is morally bankrupt. This book defiles our cultural elegance, corrupts public virtue. It should be banned. At that moment, a scholar muttered, "Wait a second. Doesn't the male character on the cover look familiar?" Yes, and look at his backside. Are those dots? Dots! That's poop! His face looks so familiar. I've seen him somewhere before. Then all eyes turned towards Chuc Van Hoa. Aha, there it is. The character's name in the book was Chuc Van Son, a fallen noble, once rich, now scheming to seduce innocent girls. He tricked them out of money, and worse. Eventually, in his desperation for riches, he became the kept man of a powerful noble named Simon. The book even used a grotesque term to describe their interactions. Poop playing. Suddenly, Chuc Van Hoa's whole body trembled. This wasn't just a story. It was a direct attack. Thumb Long had written a satirical caricature of him, exposing, mocking, and humiliating him for all the city to see. He was going to explode. Unforgivable. He's gone too far.
82. Uproar at the governor's mansion. Once again, Tam Lang drives everyone mad. In this world, what's the most important thing for a literary man? Not talent, but reputation. And yet Tam Lang blatantly trampled on others' reputations. Chuc Van Hoa gritted his teeth, seething with rage. Brothers, summon everyone you can. We're heading to the governor's mansion to demand justice. As scholars, we must purge corruption, restore integrity to the literary world, and defend Lan Chong's dignity. Trac Pham immediately understood. Chuc Van Hoa was rallying a mob to pressure the governor to ban Tam Lang's book. The scholars around him were overjoyed. Another chance to earn easy money had arrived. Every time this happened, Chuc Van Hoa would pay generously for those who followed him. And if he had anything in excess, it was money. Within just over an hour, he had assembled more than 200 scholars, marching grandly towards the governor's mansion. Tam Lang, so what if your book sells well? I'll make sure you're banned from Lan Chong, even from the entire Zhuangvu district. Inside the governor's mansion, Governor Li Fuang sat between two books, Yuen Mong by Chuc Van Hoa and The Legend of Love in Golden Plum Grove by Tam Lang. He hadn't planned to read them, but his wife and daughter both had. His wife even shared parts of the story with him in bed, so he gave it a try. After reading Yuen Mong, he nodded. Impressive. The themes of love interwoven with politics and national affairs, well written indeed. But when he picked up Tam Lang's Golden Plum Grove, the moment he saw the gaudy cover, he frowned. Vulgar. Then he read a few lines and couldn't stop. 1 page, 2 pages. His eyes widened, his mind cleared. This was a masterpiece. So profound, so cleverly layered. This book couldn't have been written by an ordinary man. It must have come from someone with deep wisdom and keen insight into human nature. What a shame, Li Fuol sighed. A work of such literary brilliance being sold to a crowd of vulgar readers. Did they even understand what they were reading? This wasn't some bawdy tale. It was literature of the highest order, satirical, piercing, illuminating. Suddenly, Yuen Mong, which he had once admired, now seemed like shallow drivel, childish, pretentious, hollow. He began questioning himself. Has my taste degraded? Have I been corrupted by years in politics? Like someone who, out of desperation, once found comfort in a wrinkled woman at a roadside inn, only to feel regret and nausea afterward. Disgusted, Li Fuong picked up Chuc Van Hoa's book with 2 fingers, flung it to the side, and wiped his hand with his sleeve. Then he eagerly reopened Golden Plum Grove. Pure bliss. This is the kind of literature fit for refined minds, he thought, smiling to himself. Although he felt a slight stir below the belt while reading. Maybe I'll stop here and spend the night with one of my concubines. Just then, a ruckus erupted outside the mansion. People shouting, even pounding drums. Li Fuong scowled. What's going on out there? An assistant rushed in. Governor, bad news. Hundreds of scholars have gathered to surround the mansion. Li Fuong's brows shot up. The worst thing for a government official? A mass protest, especially from scholars. So troublesome. Who's leading them? Great scholar Chuc Van Hoa. At that name, Li Fuong sneered. Let 5 of them in, no more. Soon after, Chuc Van Hoa entered with 4 scholars, his most loyal lackeys. Despite the situation, Chuc Van Hoa walked in with a sense of superiority. After all, he was the son of a noble, even if his family had declined. Greetings, Governor Li, he said, bowing politely. Greetings, the others echoed. Governor Li Fuong nodded. What's the matter, gentlemen? Chuc Van Hoa stepped forward. We beg you to uphold justice for the citizens of Lan Chong, protect the integrity of our literary world, and cleanse it from filth. Li Fuong rolled his eyes. These scholars loved throwing around lofty phrases like justice and morality. He cut to the chase. What do you exactly want? Chuc Van Hoa slammed Golden Plum Grove on the table. We request a full ban on this book. Arrest the printers, burn all copies, and seize the assets of Shunsak Bookstore. Not once did he mention Tam Lang. Arresting the son-in-law of a noble? Not worth the backlash. Li Fuong raised an eyebrow. Why? It's vulgar, depraved, an insult to the teachings of the sages. It corrupts public morals. Oh? Li Fuong flipped through a few pages. Does it criticize Confucianism? No. Attack the government? Also no. Then why should I ban it? Because it's disgusting. Li Fuong chuckled. If that's the standard, we'd have to burn half the books in Viet Nation. This one, in fact, is better than most. Chuc Van Hoa changed his tactics. It slanders me. This book's character, Chuc Van Son, is clearly modeled after me. He opened to the part where Chuc Van Son was being pampered by Taimon, pointing furiously. Isn't that me? Li Fuong replied calmly. The character's name is Chuc Van Son. Yours is Chuc Van Hoa. We have thousands of Chinese characters. It's normal for names to resemble. Chuc Van Yuen, do you know what you were saying? Let me urge you. Chuc Zhangpai, please read this book thoroughly. Once you do, I guarantee it will benefit you greatly. Bah! Chuc Van Yuen scoffed inwardly. I, a gifted scholar, read trash like this? Never. But he could see now Governor Li was clearly protecting Tam Lang. He changed his tone again. If you won't uphold justice, Governor, we scholars will seek it ourselves. That was a direct threat. Outside, hundreds of scholars were waiting. If Li Fuong didn't act, they could storm the gates, protest, even go on strike. Li Fuong didn't flinch. He calmly picked up a brush and drew a line across a sheet of paper. No one shall trespass into the governor's mansion. No one shall attack the academy. Anyone who crosses this line will be arrested." Upon hearing this, the 4 scholars behind Chuc Van Hoa shrank back. Money was great, but not jail. Chuc Van Hoa smirked. "I would never be so unruly, of course." Then he raised his voice. "The true villain is Dangsha Kong Truc, owner of Shunsak Bookstore. For the sake of Lanchong's literary purity, let's go burn that wretched shop to the ground." He marched boldly out. The scholars roared in agreement, following him with high spirits. "Burn the bookstore! Destroy that poison!" At Shunsak Bookstore. "Tam Kong Truc, will Chuc Van Hoa really come?" Tam Lang smiled. "He will. I set this trap more than 10 days ago. There's always a perfect setup, and always a perfect fool to fall into it. Are all preparations ready?" "According to your instructions, everything is in place. If Chuc Van Hoa comes, he will be finished." Tam Lang laughed lightly. "We can't actually kill him, but we can scare him half to death."